honorable sisters, brothers, and friends. Truths 24/7, video number 10. Theology, from at least a historical, philosophical, and scientific viewpoint. Theology, the study of all beliefs. In these videos, good morning, have a pleasant day. You're going to come up, raise the state-of-the-art of discipline of theology, and the best quality, most cultural video, depending on circumstances, I can present. Taking a little more careful about the words I use instead of sliding words together and kind of a slang with that New York voice and accent of the holler guy, the spark plug of the baseball team, the playing manager with the authority of how to play the game, etc. If you consider that there was considerable anticipation, it's called the sermons before the great event. Advent is prior to Christmas. You have a Mass honoring Christ's birth, a Christ Mass, Christmas. That now they spell, it's not like Christ Mass. Christmas honoring the birth of Christ is really the celebration. In philosophy, my opinion is, philosophy is the study of opinions. Therefore, everyone is entitled to their moral and reasonable opinion. From a historical viewpoint, it's the true facts of history. So, historical, philosophical, scientific viewpoint. From a scientific viewpoint, I present truths, and from those truths, I go into the validity of a scientific proof. Now we are progressing towards raising the state-of-the-art of discipline of theology. One of the three big questions, at least. How did we get here? Well, by definition, inert matter can't create itself. Well, where does inert matter come from? This nature we have must have been created by a supernatural power, a divine power. So believers say it's the divine power of the God, the Creator. Christ is called the birth of Christ, where he takes on human nature, man. It's Jesus, the Christ. What Jesus Christ proved was for divine miracles. I've studied light, its velocity and properties all my life. Christ granted vision to some that were blind. And they say, well, no, he made believe he was blind so he could beg and get money. No, one is known blind in the village for years by name. I think it was Christ gave sight to blind Bartimaeus. Then he gave sight to a man born blind. And they forced him into a court proceedings where they said, no, you weren't blind. They tried to trick him and threaten his parents and him and so forth. And he said, all I know is that I was blind. I don't know who gave me sight because he was blind. He said, but now I can see, and I'm not going to deny that. So all I know is that I had a vision. Was it a dream or a vision? Well, if I was dreaming, then I dreamt that I was touching physical things to see if I was awake, to make sure I was awake, and then saying, now I'm going to get up and touch this vision for two reasons. Scientifically, because I couldn't see through this vision. It was opaque, and I could see objects either side and above the vision, but I couldn't see through the vision. It was opaque. So I ought to be able to touch this vision. And secondly, maybe it was a sin, or maybe when this vision of Jesus Christ was the height, appearance of from what I was told, Christ is height and so forth, said my name. Now, I doubted. Maybe I shouldn't, but I doubted. I don't think that Jesus Christ knows me personally. I don't think so. I don't think that religious of a man or worthy. I've got to get up and see if this is a real vision. And when I went to get up, poof, just like a puff of smoke. I was awake, my eyes were open. Just poof, disappeared. Was it a vision? That's the true facts. Well, when I was beginning to preach, defending especially ladies who were attacked by a group, they have the U.S. divided into 4 sections. Each section has a big, powerful supervisor, and then the charge of the entire 4 groups was a grammar school teacher in my area of California. And wow, when they would attack, especially ladies, and get young girls to cry and then get off of, it was called ethics. They couldn't say religion. And in ethics, they therefore were allowed to put in, it certainly wasn't ethical, they used blasphemy and send dirty pictures to me and them. And I'll speak the truth. Terrible, immoral pictures, and laugh and insults. And then laugh at the girl cried and says, well, and she got off of her religious program, and I see we got another one. Well, I would then say, well, why don't you do that to me, you supposedly smart aleck, anti-religious, anti-religious bigots. I started to whack them around on the principle. See, Christ, when he spoke from the viewpoint of theology, religion, forgiveness of sin for salvation, not social science. So, my opinion is if somebody hits me, I hit them twice. Once for hitting me, and once if they go to hit me again, say, hey, if I hit him, he's going to hit me back, not once, twice. not about this turning the other cheek. Because he's talking about you forgive your neighbor so he can be good, and a neighbor so he can then say, yeah, okay, I'll be good. But if he's not, if it's somebody that hits you, and they say, I'll hit you because you're not supposed to hit back, if you do, you're not really a Christian. Wait a minute. We're not talking about theology here and religion. We're talking about a physical assault. I have the right to defend myself. And if it takes me to hit you twice to defend myself, I'm going to hit you twice. You corrupt, immoral pieces of crap. Every name they called, I called them twice. I hit them so hard, so often, they got attorneys, use power on advertisers to get me off of the internet. I couldn't afford any kind of a law hassle. I'm financially embarrassed as it is. Lucky to work hard, sometimes work at two jobs. One maybe an engineering survey and one as a security guard, evenings, in order to support my wife and family. So, and then I also did, of course, maybe all night into the next day, or while I was working as security guard and watching, I would then delve into various fields of study, especially theology and science and philosophy and cosmology. I have some great work in cosmology, great work. Now, what about in the raising a state heart of discipline of theology? Well, when I started years ago, they sounded like football quarterbacks. They would show, they had memorized chapters and verses and call out these numbers. Half of what they were saying were references of numbers. Well, I don't want to memorize the Bible. And the first thing I do, I'm not saying I'm the most popular preacher. The first thing I do is, if those Jews who say we don't recognize Christ. Now the Bible is, I realize, is 2 books. 2/3 is the Old Testament. 1/3 is the New Testament. If Jews do not accept Christ, why must I accept their old stories of supposedly war heroes and all that? So, the reaction is an equal and opposite reaction. You don't accept Jesus Christ. I don't accept your stories of your Old Testament. The first thing I do is to tear out the Old Testament and throw it away. Anything I need to know, Christ will have preached and proved it. Now I have to 1/3 the weight and volume of what I should know and refer to. Well, then I came to the conclusion that you have to have proofs. You have proofs in just about every discipline, especially science. And I'm doing it from a historical, philosophical, scientific viewpoint, remember? So I present proofs. There are at least 40. I started like at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, because then I didn't work Sunday. I got a clean sheet of paper. Certainly there has to be scientific errors in this old, the New Testament, because they weren't scientists. I thought they were all fishermen. No, most of them were fishermen, but one of them, the disciple Luke, was a physician. That's significant, because Christ performed miracles of body and soul. And one of them was a physician, Apostle Luke. So when he gave sight to a blind man, one of them there was a physician that knew the nature and the human body as a physician. They don't mention that. Now, what I would do then is to say, this is what is best, and that is from the position of proof. Christ created a new hand. And the great argument of creation and evolution, I say evolution, and they say, no, it's evolution. Evolution, yeah. Okay. But he created a new hand. Now, if Christ, only the Son of God, could create flesh and bone, then certainly God could create flesh and bone, humanity, man. To me, that was in front of witnesses in a synagogue. He created flesh and bone. So that will be, this is my first, try to have only 15 minutes. Every day, good morning, rise and shine, and up, raise the state of the art of discipline of theology, and the believers and those who are good, be happy, because God, I think, gives salvation to believers and good people. Thank you.